In this video, I'm going to attempt to make my first ever stop motion animation on this channel. Let's see how it turns out. This video is brought to you by the ASUS Pro Artist Awards for 2022. It's time to explore beyond the limits. I had this idea of having a hand that's drawing on a whiteboard ending up in a battle with a stick figure that was drawn on the whiteboard. But I can't be the hand because I'm animating, so I have a hand model.
Rob! Yay!
I have to give huge thanks and credit to ASUS, not only for sponsoring this video, but providing the ultimate stop motion animation rig and monitoring setup. We have the beautiful ASUS Pro Art display 32 inches here, which is almost the size of the whiteboard. Incredible, gorgeous, color calibrated 4K. The Pro Art USB-C monitor, which I'll be using to put up my storyboards once I've built that very shortly. And then of course the ASUS ZenBook Pro Duo. This powerhouse is running all of it. I use it all the time for production and creativity. It's incredible. More details on that stuff later. But point is, we're running stop motion animation and capture software, Photoshop, and all of this all at once to make something really cool. But let's just spend a minute doing a quick muck around. Do like I'm about to flick, so do one of those. So the onion skin I'm referring to means when I move his hand, you can actually see the previous frame, which is how we can animate, which is gonna be super useful. And I can change the transparency of that there. I think you might sever your wrist.
Okay.
More like really contorted in your hand, like pain, like finger up. That's it, that's what we want. Oh, that's so good! That's so freaking good! That works so well! That looks really good! So I think we're all set now to do the actual storyboarding for the final animation. We're going to explore animating on the whiteboard beyond the limits of a whiteboard, which is why I'm excited. This video is sponsored by ASUS and the ASUS Pro Artist Awards 2022. And this year's topic is exploring beyond the limits. ASUS Pro Artist Awards is a competition open to all ages. And there are 4 categories to enter in: photography, graphic design, which I'll be judging, film, and animation. And I will personally be reviewing the submissions with other amazing judges to help select the winners. And submissions are now open, and you have until May 15th to get your entry in there. So go get creative. There's over $60,000 of cash prizes in the competition and multiple ASUS creator hardware up for grabs and future opportunities to work on ASUS projects. Let your imagination, creativity, and ingenuity run rampant as you express yourself and get wild with your boundary-breaking creations. The final winners will be announced on June 15th, and I'm really looking forward to judging it and seeing your amazing entries. You got nothing to lose and a lot of opportunity to get creative and maybe win a few things along the way. So huge thank you to ASUS for sponsoring this video and of course making this awesome competition for everyone. So here's the concept. Imagine if there's some sort of equation. So a hand comes in to wipe away and then it'll be like a scuffle. It'll be like a so he pushes it away and then maybe it's like a poke. Yeah. And then that's a poke back, a push back, and then it's and maybe he can crawl out of the hand.
Yeah, that's cool.
So the hand comes in with a marker and draws something. If he draws a door and like opens it, runs in the door, go to erase it, doesn't disappear, can't get rid of it. Trapdoor comes out, comes back with the eraser to go get rid of it, eraser gets stolen.
Yeah.
Comes back with a pen, draws a big cartoon hammer, throws the pen away, hand goes to grab, gets slammed down, and then is dead. Lands on the hand and then just sort of walks away.
off.
That feels like a proper narrative.
Pretty solid.
Oh, it's gonna be a lot of work though. Let's go. So we began what was to be the long journey of animation ahead of us. It's always easy to jump in the first couple of frames. It's usually when you hit frame 20 that reality sets in. And we found pretty quick that references were gonna be pretty important. I experienced this back in the day when I used to animate stick figures in my youth. The head and proportions of the body would randomly get bigger and smaller unless you have something to anchor yourself to, which is why, aside from doing a taped border to help us frame where the camera was looking, I also created a reference of the character at full standing height so that between all of his motions, squashes, and stretches, I have some sort of visual reference that I can reset back to. Okay, bit of a mid-animation update here. While getting the camera ready to do this vlog section, I knocked my head on the whole support structure and deframed the whole thing. So you'll notice this blue border that we put around. That is for us to know where the edges and the boundaries of the camera are. And now we've gone over the edges and boundaries of the camera because I've knocked the whole camera rig. Can I just like poke this and it will No, I just made it far, far worse. Probably not a... Did I just pull some power out of something? I did. This vlog is going well. The animation's going well though. That's the most important thing. This is working really well. This is where things started to really pick up, both in the action, but also in the concentration and fluidity of thinking it took. Tracking motion of two separate things that have two separate arcs of motions, but then need to collide or interact at certain points can be really difficult. And the more things you add over time, and I knew there would be, especially later in this animation, the more challenging it is and the further ahead you have to think and really try and nail it when you're 30 frames away from something hitting. This has to be the most interesting mix of satisfying and tense and frustrating that I have felt in a long time. Simply because I have an immediate feedback for what I'm working on. It's really fun to see the motion come to life, but at the same time, with stop motion, there's no simple undo button. I can't go back and fix a frame in the middle of an entire animation. I have to delete every frame up to the point that something needs to be fixed. So the pressure's much higher, but the feedback is immediate. And at times, it's glorious. So we'll sort of cut to the chase a little bit. I have all these different storyboard frames. After the first interaction, there was like initially going to be like this poke back and forth. The subtle motion of the start is so tedious. It's like really painstaking to like, okay, Rob, don't move your head. For like 2 hours, just like that much, that much, that much, that much. And like, and it's really hard to draw the head in the same place as the character and like do this slow motion movement. It's fine, and I'll do it when I need to, but I think we're ready to make some action happen. How are you feeling, Rob?
Losing feeling in my right side from my shoulder down, which is good. It helps with the no movement thing because my arm goes numb and I can't move it anyway.
That's the spirit.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Now I know in every voiceover section so far I've just talked about the challenges of animation, the satisfaction and the frustrations. It's a really consistent process, you guys. If anything, it just sort of amplifies the more you do it. So after about 5 hours of the same process, the same frame by frame, step by step, thinking 10 frames behind and 10 frames ahead at every time, and it was a constant flow of back and forth in the animation, referencing what had been done to create the next frames. One has to commit their entire mind and body to the process of animation. Part of the immediate feedback is, of course, seeing it on the display directly in front of us. And the ProArt monitor that I was provided by ASUS, well, actually ProArt monitors, because the small USB one that had all of my storyboards fluidly available was incredible, but my God, the huge 4K ProArt color calibrated monitor ahead of me is a creator's dream. And the whole setup running on the ZenBook Pro Duo meant that I had a weirdly portable setup that was super professional and running 4 monitors, high quality stop motion animation software, Photoshop, and everything I needed. At the end of the day, anyone can be creative with whatever they have. I truly believe that. But I also believe that having incredible tools to work with makes the process so much more satisfying and enjoyable. 6 hours total or something of stick figure and Rob arm animation. But we're in the home stretch, partly because I've cheated a little bit. Here, let me explain. Here is my storyboards. We skipped these like incremental pushes and pushes. Originally, there was gonna be this sort of jumping around in the air and like trying to catch soap, basically. Animation takes a lot of time, and making those storyboards didn't take much time at all. And now that we're in the throes of it, it makes sense to just hit the core beats. Not only is this gonna take a lot longer to do than if we did something else, but also it feels pretty flat to me. Like, they could make friends.
I don't like that.
Hand comes up with a marker, draws a sword, and he could just throw the marker down and grab the sword and like go to attack. And he could just like dodge, grab the marker, draw a big like bazooka.
How long is it going to take you to draw an explosion?
Longer than I would guess.
I think that's a good answer.
Yeah. All right, let's do it. All right, we're in the home stretch. It's where the stakes are raised because more motion is added. I was animating a drawn sword and different effects as well as the character and the object that the hand was holding. Oh, and the hand. But it was all building up and escalating, crescendoing into a glorious, well, hopefully glorious conclusion. We still hadn't figured out what the ending would be yet because, well, I didn't know with the few hours I had left what I'd be up to and how much time I'd have to conclude it in a satisfying way. And that was one of the interesting things that was present throughout the whole process. Knowing the rough idea of what I wanted and what I wanted it to feel like, but having no idea what it would actually end up being. Every time I do anything animation, I'm like, oh yeah, this is why I avoid animation. What comes next always changes because if I have a planned motion, but then I wrap up a previous motion, it could be super inorganic to get to what I planned, and I'm just like, well, it makes more sense to do this instead. So literally, as I've gone through this whole thing, yeah, I've had a storyboard and it's helped, but the plan has changed many times. And this hopefully is the final plan change. Rob's arm is dead. Previous plan was gonna be he like draws a gun or something. It feels like we're in the last leg. We're running out of time. But it's way more interesting watching the motion happen, and there's a sword there waiting to be grabbed and used. And this pen is flying off in the screen. So I'm thinking he jumps off, grabs the sword, pulls it out, kills Rob's hand, like just satisfying thing, catches the marker, draws a door.
Back to the door.
Walks out, back to the door. But the door makes sense because it's a finale.
It's full circle.
Door finale, no, it's a square actually.
Whatever.
This is gonna be one of the coolest things I've made in a while. I say that every video.
You said that last video.
I said it last week because we just make cool stuff all the time, you guys. Just subscribe, because if you're watching this, because the thumbnail was super satisfying, but you've probably seen another video or two and you haven't clicked that subscribe button, you're missing out. It's always a fire. It's always lit. It's always, I gotta animate it.
It's been like this
I'm
too
so
long.
exhausted. I think I've got like 3 or 4 frames left. This is the bit where you can't cut the corners because this is the blood splat. This is the satisfying bit. How you feeling, Rob?
I can't feel my arm.
Just one empty bloody frame. We're done.
High five.
Let's come back to this another day. See you go.
Good luck.
We done?
We are. You've got to edit the video.
Are you gonna turn it off?
See ya.
Turn it. Hey.
That was a relaxing relax away for spending a whole long weekend not animating. I come back with fresh eyes, ready to enjoy the whole experience and with no more work to do on it. Let's enjoy my animation. I'm gonna call this one the formula for life.
Oh, you little... Gotcha. Uh-huh. Oh.
I'm just so happy with this. Everything was filmed and sort of animated at 24 frames a second, but with a bit of slowing and speeding. Especially those like dynamic moments, like having like after this motion, having it slow, and then into this where there's a lot more dynamic motion. So like this whole section here, when they've pulled apart, they're sort of gauging each other, evaluating. It's like playing probably at about 10 to 12 frames a second. And then after that, it's like sped up heaps just to feel really fluid because there's so much action happening. It feels so good. So adding those dynamics after, makes all the difference. It's so satisfying. Also, there were some bits like this. So like where it's pushing out of the hand, I actually animated it so I could loop it a couple of times and it looks and feels cooler, and I didn't have to animate it twice. Just the way the real and the drawn are interacting, really, like, it feels really effective to me. I'm so happy. And speaking of happy, so is he, for a brief moment until I pushed myself beyond my limits, and that was a lot of fun. And it was a theme provided to me by ASUS, who also provided me the gorgeous Pro Art displays that I used and the ZenBook Pro Duo, my creative powerhouse. Having the two screens on a laptop is just a creative masterstroke that ASUS has just brought to the table, and it makes everything awesome. So do yourself a favor, go participate in the ASUS Pro Artist Award Design competition. I am judging the graphic design category, which I'm super excited to be participating in and joining the judges panel. There are 4 different categories. The theme of the competition is explore beyond the limits, and all you have to do is take one of those 4 categories and explore your creativity beyond the limits. Thanks for watching. I'll see you later.